The alarm screamed through the administrative center of New Providence Colony, and Sarah Chen knew immediately that something was terribly wrong. She had worked on frontier colonies for 8 years, and she recognized the difference between a drill and genuine panic. Contacts. Multiple hostile contacts dropping out of FTL. The sensor technician's voice cracked with fear. His hands shook as he pointed at the display screen. Dozens of red markers appeared around the planet, moving in coordinated attack patterns. Sarah grabbed the communication console. "This is Administrator Chen. Get everyone to the underground shelters. Now?" Outside the windows, the sky began to burn. Bright orange streaks cut through the atmosphere as the alien warships fired their weapons. The first impact hit the northern agricultural sector, and Sarah felt the ground shake even from 20 kilometers away. A massive fireball rose into the sky, turning day into a hellish twilight. "Who are they?" someone asked. "Does it matter?" Sarah replied, her fingers flying across the control panel. She needed to send a distress signal. Earth Command was 3 weeks away at the fastest speed, but they had to know what was happening. The colony of New Providence had 6,000 people. Farmers, teachers, engineers, families who had come to the frontier looking for a fresh start. They had no military, no warships, nothing but a handful of personal weapons and the hope that nobody would bother them this far from civilization. That hope died as another explosion rocked the planet. Sarah's screen showed the other colonies in the sector. Epsilon Reach, Morgan's World, Liberty Station. All of them showed the same red emergency indicators. All of them were under attack at the same time. Whoever these aliens were, they had planned this carefully. "The communication array is still up," her assistant said, "but I don't think it will last long. They're targeting our infrastructure first." Sarah nodded. She understood the strategy. Cut off communications, destroy defenses, then take their time with the helpless colonists. Her hands moved to the emergency frequency panel, the one they used for colony-to-colony messages, but something made her pause. There was another frequency listed in the old database. Ancient, pre-Confederacy. The file said it was for emergency use only and had a designation she didn't recognize. Titan Line Direct. She had maybe seconds before the communication array was destroyed. Earth Command was too far away to help. This old frequency was probably dead, a relic from centuries ago when humanity was different, harder, more desperate. Sarah made her choice. She programmed the emergency beacon to broadcast on both frequencies, then added every piece of data she could about the attack. Ship types, weapon signatures, attack patterns. If anyone heard this, they would know exactly what happened here. "Message sent," she said quietly. The building shook again. Through the window, Sarah saw alien ships descending through the smoke. They were ugly things, all sharp angles and dark metal, like something designed by people who only understood war. Smaller craft peeled off from the larger vessels, heading toward the colony center. "Everyone to the shelters," Sarah ordered. "Take the emergency supplies and seal the doors." Her staff ran. Sarah stayed at the console for one more moment, watching the alien ships grow larger. On her screen, she could see similar scenes playing out across all 12 colonies. Thousands of people dying or hiding, waiting for help that wouldn't come in time. One of the alien ships landed in the central plaza. A ramp extended and creatures emerged. They were tall, maybe 3 meters, with forearms and skin that looked like gray leather. They carried weapons that crackled with blue energy. Behind them came smaller aliens, probably servants or soldiers of a lower rank. Sarah heard their leader speaking in a harsh, clicking language. The computer tried to translate, but it was rough. Something about soft flesh and weak prey and easy conquest. They thought humans were weak. They thought the colonies were abandoned by Earth because they weren't worth protecting. They had no idea what they were really doing, but Sarah knew. Her grandmother had told her stories from the history books, from the dark times when humanity fought for its very survival. Back then, humans had built things that terrified even themselves. Weapons and ships that were too powerful, too dangerous to keep active during peacetime. Those ships had been sent away, hidden in the deep dark between stars. Their crews had gone to sleep, volunteers who chose to wait in frozen silence in case humanity ever needed them again. Sarah had thought those stories were exaggerations. Old tales meant to make children feel safe. But that emergency frequency had been real, listed in the official database. Someone somewhere had kept it active for centuries. She ran for the shelters as the aliens began firing into buildings. Behind her, the administrative center exploded in a ball of flame. Sarah made it to the underground entrance and sealed the heavy door. Around her, frightened colonists huddled in the darkness, holding their children, wondering if they would ever see the sun again. "Did you send the message?" someone asked. "Yes," Sarah said. "I sent it everywhere I could. Will Earth come?" Sarah thought about that ancient frequency, about ships that might not even exist anymore, about warriors who had been asleep for longer than she had been alive. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I think I might have woken up something else." In the deep dark of space, impossibly far from any known human world, ancient machines received a signal. Computers that had been dormant for 400 years began their startup sequences. Lights flickered on in corridors that had known only darkness and silence for centuries. And in the cryo chambers, frost began to melt from sealed pods as automatic revival protocols activated for the first time in generations. Admiral Marcus Voss opened his eyes to pain. Every muscle in his body screamed as the cryofluid drained from his pod. His lungs burned as they remembered how to breathe. His heart hammered in his chest, confused by the sudden demand to pump blood after centuries of stillness. "Revival successful," a mechanical voice announced. "Welcome back, Admiral. Emergency protocols are in effect." Emergency protocols. Marcus forced his mind to work through the fog. He had gone to sleep after the war, after the machines had been destroyed. Earth had been safe. Humanity had been safe. They were supposed to sleep until humanity needed them again. The pod opened with a hiss. Marcus fell forward onto his hands and knees, coughing up the last of the cryofluid. His body was old, he realized. Not ancient, but he had been 48 when he went under. The cryosleep had preserved him, but it couldn't stop time completely. He would be slower now, weaker, but he was still a soldier. Marcus pulled himself up and looked around the revival chamber. Other pods were opening. Men and women in various states of consciousness were emerging. All of them wearing the old Earth Union uniform. All of them confused and disoriented. "Report," Marcus said, his voice rough from disuse. "Titan Station Ragnarok reporting full emergency revival," the computer responded. "All primary systems are operational. Received distress signal on emergency frequency. Multiple human colonies under attack. Earth Command not responding to contact attempts." Marcus felt ice in his veins that had nothing to do with cryosleep. Colonies under attack. That meant humans were dying. That meant someone had decided humanity was weak enough to prey upon. They were wrong. "How long?" Marcus asked. 382 years since crew entered cryosleep. The number was staggering. Everyone Marcus had known before the war was dead. Earth had changed. Humanity had changed. But some things never changed. People still needed protecting. Marcus made his way to the command center, his legs remembering how to walk. Other crew members were emerging from their pods, checking systems, helping those who were struggling with revival. They were professionals. They had trained for this. The command center was exactly as he remembered it. Massive screens showing the status of Titan Station Ragnarok. A dreadnought so large that small moons looked tiny by comparison. 80 kilometers of warship, built during humanity's darkest hour to fight an enemy that wanted to exterminate all biological life. "Status of other Titan stations?" Marcus asked as he took his command chair. His tactical officer, Commander Sarah Park, stumbled to her station. Her hair was white now, touched by the cryosleep. 8 stations not responding. Titan stations Fenrir, Jormungandr, and Armageddon report successful revival. 4 other stations show catastrophic system failures. They didn't survive the long sleep. 12 stations had been built. Only 4 remained. Marcus felt the weight of those lost ships, lost crews who had volunteered to sleep forever if necessary. "Show me the distress signal." The screens filled with data. 12 human colonies attacked simultaneously. Thousands dead. No help from Earth. The signal had been broadcast on the old emergency frequency that Earth Command probably didn't even monitor anymore. But the Titans had heard it. They always would. "Can we contact Earth?" Marcus asked. "Trying, sir. But we're weeks away from any known human traffic. Our position was deliberately hidden after the war. Earth might not even remember we exist," Marcus understood. After the machine wars ended, humanity had wanted peace. The Titans were too powerful, too frightening. They were reminders of what humanity had become to survive. So they had been sent away, hidden, with crews who volunteered to wait in the darkness. Marcus had been one of them. So had his crew of 50,000. Engineers, soldiers, pilots, tactical officers. All of them had said goodbye to family and friends, knowing they might never wake up. Or if they did, everyone they loved would be long dead. "Orders, Admiral?" Commander Park asked. Marcus looked at the tactical display. 4 Titan dreadnoughts against whatever alien force had attacked the colonies. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and 400 years out of date. But they were still Titans. "Wake everyone. Full combat status. Begin calculations for FTL jump to the colony coordinates. And someone get me my uniform." "Sir, shouldn't we wait for Earth Command to respond?" Marcus turned to face his crew. They were all looking at him, these people from another age, these warriors who had sacrificed everything. "Earth Command is weeks away," Marcus said. "Those colonists will be dead by then. We didn't survive the machines just to let our people die because bureaucrats need time to debate. We are the Titan line. We were built for this exact purpose," Commander Park smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was fire in it. "Aye, sir." Waking the fleet. Over the next hours, Titan Station Ragnarok came fully alive. Crew members moved through corridors that had been dark for centuries. Engineers checked weapons systems that could tear apart planets. Pilots climbed into fighters that were older than their great-grandparents but still deadly. Marcus walked the ship, seeing the memorials to those who hadn't survived the sleep. Names carved into walls, pictures preserved in database files. They had been his friends, his comrades. They had trusted him to wake up when humanity needed them. He wouldn't fail them now. "Admiral," Commander Park called over the communication system. "We're ready. All 4 Titan stations report full combat readiness. Weapons charged. Crews at stations. We can jump in 10 minutes. Marcus returned to the command center. On the screens, he could see the other 3 Titans. Fenrir, Jormungandr, Armageddon. Each one a monster of war, a reminder of humanity's darkest capabilities. "Open a channel to the fleet," Marcus ordered. "Channel open, sir." Marcus took a breath. Somewhere out in the galaxy, humans were dying. Aliens who thought humanity was weak were learning they had made a terrible mistake. "This is Admiral Marcus Voss to all Titan stations. 400 years ago, we chose to sleep so that humanity could have peace. Today we wake because that peace is threatened. We are old. We are from a different time. But we are still humanity's shield. Let's remind the galaxy why they feared us." The responses came back instantly. Confirmations from 3 other admirals, warriors from another age, ready to fight one more time. "Initiating FTL jump," the navigation officer announced. "Destination Epsilon Reach System. Time to arrival 6 hours and space twisted. Reality bent." And 4 monsters from humanity's past disappeared into faster-than-light travel, racing toward a battle that would shake the entire galaxy. War Prime Selkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the conquered human colony below with satisfaction. The attack had been easier than expected. These humans had barely resisted. A few ground weapons, some desperate transmissions, then silence. "The soft flesh breaks easily," his second officer observed. "Their core worlds will fall just as quickly." Selkar clicked his mandibles in agreement. The Krevthar Dominion had studied humanity for years before this attack. Rich worlds, advanced technology, but spread thin across space. Weak military, more concerned with trade and comfort than war. They would make excellent slaves once properly broken. "Status of the other colonies?" Selkar asked. "All secured, War Prime. 12 human worlds now belong to the Dominion. We are establishing supply lines and preparing for the next wave of attacks." "Perfect. In 3 months, the Dominion would push deeper into human space. In 6 months, they would reach the core worlds. Earth itself would fall within a year. War Prime." The sensor officer's voice held confusion. 4 contacts just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. Selkar turned to the tactical display. 4 ships, massive signatures moving toward the colony. He felt a moment of concern. Had Earth finally sent military support? "Scan them," he ordered. The results made him laugh. 4 ships, only 4, against his fleet of 200 warships. And the design signatures were ancient, practically museum pieces. "They're old human vessels," the sensor officer confirmed. "I'm reading power signatures that match nothing in our database." "The ships are enormous, War Prime. Each one is nearly 80 kilometers long." 80 kilometers? Selkar had never heard of ships that size. But size meant nothing without modern weapons and shields. These were probably cargo vessels, repurposed military ships from some forgotten era. "Open a channel," Selkar ordered. He would give the humans one chance to surrender their ships. They would make fine additions to the Dominion fleet. "Channel open, War Prime." But before Selkar could speak, a message came through from the lead human vessel. This is Admiral Marcus Voss of Titan Station Ragnarok. You have attacked human civilians. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to respond. The bridge crew fell silent. Then someone laughed. Then everyone was laughing. One human in an antique ship demanding that the Krevthar fleet surrender? These soft flesh have lost their minds, Zelkar said, clicking with amusement. Open fire. Destroy them. The Krevthar fleet moved forward, 200 warships against 4. Energy weapons charged. Missile tubes loaded. This would take seconds. Then the human ships fired. Zelkar's laughter died as his flagship's shield simply vanished. The entire front section of his ship disappeared in a flash of light so bright it burned his eyes. Alarms screamed. His crew scrambled for emergency stations as the ship listed to one side. What was that? Zelkar screamed. Compressed antimatter projectiles. His weapons officer shouted. They're firing mass accelerators with antimatter payloads. Our shields can't stop that kind of kinetic energy. On the tactical display, Zelkar watched in horror as the 4 human ships tore through his fleet. Each shot destroyed a warship. Not damaged, not disabled. Destroyed completely. The human ships didn't even slow down. One of the Titans, the one called Fenrir, released clouds of smaller craft. Thousands of them. But they weren't piloted by humans. They moved with mechanical precision, too fast for biological reaction times. Autonomous combat drones, someone shouted. They're using artificial intelligence! That was impossible. Every civilized species in the galaxy had banned combat AI after the synthetic wars. The machines had nearly destroyed the entire galactic sector 3,000 years ago. Using AI weapons was considered a war crime, but these humans weren't from the civilized galaxy. They were from somewhere else, some darker time. Zelkar's fleet tried to fight back. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between planets. Some shots hit the human ships, but their shields absorbed everything. These weren't modern shields. They were older, cruder, but somehow more powerful, designed to withstand weapons that no longer existed. All ships scatter formation, Zelkar ordered. Retreat to the outer system. But it was too late. The human ship called Armageddon had positioned itself between the Krevthar fleet and the colony. Its point defense systems created a wall of fire that nothing could pass through. The Dominion's ships were trapped. Zelkar's flagship shook again as another antimatter round tore through the engine section. His crew was dying around him. Through the viewport, he could see other Krevthar ships exploding, breaking apart, going dark. 47 minutes, someone whispered. They destroyed the entire fleet in 47 minutes. Zelkar looked at the tactical display. 200 warships reduced to debris. The 4 human vessels hadn't even been damaged. They hung in space like ancient gods of war, terrible and unstoppable. Send surrender, Zelkar managed to say. Tell them we yield. Below on the colony, Sarah Chen heard the explosions in space. The underground shelter shook, but not like before. This was different. This was the sound of warfare on a scale she couldn't imagine. Then the communication system crackled to life. This is Admiral Marcus. Voss to all human survivors on Epsilon Reach. The enemy has been neutralized. Medical and rescue teams will be landing shortly. You are safe, Sarah couldn't believe it. Hours ago they were waiting to die. Now someone was telling them they were safe. She made her way to the shelter entrance and opened the door. The sky was filled with debris, burning metal raining down through the atmosphere. But above it all she could see them. 4 massive ships, so large they blocked out portions of the sky. They were old, she realized. Ancient designs from before the Confederacy. But they were beautiful in their terrible power. What are those? Someone asked beside her. Sarah remembered the old frequency she had used. The emergency channel that shouldn't have been active. She thought about stories her grandmother told about warriors who chose to sleep in the darkness waiting. Those are Titans, Sarah said quietly. Those are our ancestors coming home. One of the massive ships descended toward the colony. Landing craft began dropping from its hull, carrying medical supplies and rescue teams. Sarah watched as men and women in old-style military uniforms emerged, looking around at a world that had changed beyond recognition. But they were still human, and they had come when called. In orbit, Admiral Voss watched the colony on his screens. His crew was silent, processing what they had just done. They had woken from centuries of sleep and immediately gone to war. They had killed thousands of aliens in less than an hour. Sir, Commander Park said quietly, we're receiving transmissions from Earth. They want to know who we are. Marcus smiled grimly. Tell them the Titan line has returned. Tell them humanity's old guard is awake. And tell them next time they abandon their colonies we'll be there whether they like it or not. The Grand Assembly on Earth was in chaos. Representatives from 300 worlds shouted at each other, demanding answers, explanations, solutions. On the massive central screen, footage played on repeat showing 4 ancient warships destroying an alien fleet in less than an hour. Who authorized this? Chancellor Wei demanded, slamming her hand on the podium. Who gave permission for these ships to engage in combat? Admiral Peterson of Earth Command stood at the witness stand, looking tired. No one authorized it, Chancellor. We didn't even know the Titan station still existed. After the machine wars ended, they were supposed to be decommissioned. Instead, they were mothballed in deep space with skeleton crews in cryosleep. For 400 years? Someone shouted from the assembly floor. Apparently so. The screen changed to show Admiral Marcus Voss's face. He looked old but hard, like stone worn smooth by centuries. His uniform was from another era, bearing symbols that modern humans barely recognized. This man ignored our authority. Chancellor Wei continued. He took military action without consulting Earth Command. He represents a time when humanity was barbaric, when we solved problems with violence. He also saved 12 colonies. Another representative pointed out. Thousands of lives that we couldn't protect. The assembly erupted in arguments again. Some called Voss a hero. Others called him a dangerous relic. All of them were afraid of what the Titans represented. In deep space aboard Titan Station Ragnarok, Marcus listened to Earth's transmissions with growing frustration. They wanted him to return to Earth immediately. They wanted his ships disarmed. They wanted him to stand trial for unauthorized military action. They're afraid of us, Commander Park observed. They should be, Marcus replied. We're weapons from their nightmare past. We remind them that humanity once built things like this because we had to. Sarah Chen, who had been brought aboard as a civilian liaison, entered the command center. She had spent days learning about the Titans, talking with crew members who came from a different age. Now she understood both sides of the conflict. Admiral, you need to understand what Earth has become, she said carefully. We've had peace for 3 centuries. We've built a society based on trade, diplomacy, cooperation. The idea of ships this powerful frightens people. Peace is a luxury, Marcus said. We learned that fighting the machines. You can have peace when you're strong enough that no one dares attack you. Your colonies burned because you forgot that lesson. Maybe. But you can't just ignore Earth Command. Marcus turned to face her. I'll return to Earth when I'm sure the colonies are safe. Not before. Earth had 3 weeks to respond to those distress signals. We were there in 6 hours. Sarah understood his position, but she also saw the bigger picture. The Krevthar Dominion is mobilizing their full military. Our intelligence says they're gathering over 3,000 warships. They think you represent humanity's full military capability. They're terrified. Good. No, not good. They're planning total war. They'd rather fight now than wait for humanity to reveal more hidden weapons. Marcus felt cold. He had started this to save colonies. Now he might have started a war that would kill millions. Across the galaxy, in the throne chamber of the Krevthar Dominion, War Matriarch Selvara studied the battle reports. She was old by Krevthar standards, and she had survived by being smart and ruthless. These humans lied to us, she said to her council. They pretended to be weak. They hid weapons that could destroy our fleets. What else are they hiding? Perhaps those 4 ships are all they have, one advisor suggested hopefully. Selvara clicked her mandibles in disagreement. If they kept 4 ships hidden for centuries, they have more. Humans are clever. They probably have dozens of these Titan stations waiting to wake up. She didn't know she was wrong. There were no more functional Titans. Just 4 old ships crewed by people from another age. We must strike now, Selvara continued. Gather every warship in the Dominion. Call in our allies. We will crush these humans before they can wake more of their ancient weapons. Her council agreed. Within days, the largest military fleet in Krevthar history began assembling. 3,000 warships representing centuries of military power. They would attack the human colony of New Terra, a strategic world that the humans couldn't afford to lose. Either humanity would reveal more hidden weapons, or the Krevthar would know they had overestimated their enemy. Either way, this would end in one massive battle. Back on Titan Station Ragnarok, Marcus received intelligence about the Krevthar mobilization. His tactical officers gathered around the display, studying the numbers. 3,000 ships, Commander Park said quietly. Against our 4. We've faced worse odds, Marcus replied, but he knew it was a lie. During the machine wars, they'd had 12 Titan stations and supporting fleets. Now they had 4 stations and nothing else. Earth is sending a modern fleet to help, Sarah informed them. 200 ships. They'll arrive at New Terra in 2 weeks. The Krevthar will be there in 3 days, Marcus observed. The command center fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The Titans would face the enemy fleet alone again, but this time the numbers were overwhelming. We can't win, someone said. Marcus looked at his crew. These people who had sacrificed everything to protect humanity. They had slept for centuries waiting to be needed. Now they were being asked to die against impossible odds. We weren't built to win, Marcus said. We were built to hold the line until help arrives. That's what Titans do. Sarah felt her throat tighten. These people were from another time, but they understood sacrifice in a way her generation had forgotten. They knew that sometimes protecting others meant standing between them and death, even if you couldn't survive. There might be another way, Sarah said. What if we evacuate New Terra? Let the Krevthar have an empty planet? Then they'll attack another colony, Marcus replied. And another, until we teach them that attacking humans costs more than it's worth. Commander Park pulled up tactical data. The Titans were designed for fleet combat. Each station can engage multiple capital ships simultaneously. Our weapons are old, but they're effective. Our shields can take punishment that would destroy modern ships. But 3,000 ships? Sarah asked. We make them pay for every kilometer, Marcus said. We make them bleed. And we hold until Earth's fleet arrives. Then maybe, just maybe, we teach the galaxy why humanity tried to forget what we're capable of. Orders went out to the other Titan stations. All 4 would meet at New Terra. They would position themselves in defensive formation around the colony. And they would face an enemy that outnumbered them hundreds to 1. Sarah watched the crew prepare for battle. They were calm, professional. They had done this before against even more terrifying enemies, but she could see it in their eyes. They knew this might be their last fight. Why? Sarah asked Marcus quietly. Why sacrifice yourselves for a generation you don't even know? Marcus looked at her with eyes that had seen the end of the world and survived. Because that's what the old guard does. We stand watch so that people like you can have normal lives. We carry the darkness so you can live in the light. That's always been our purpose. New Terra hung in space like a blue jewel, unaware of the storm approaching. 3 million colonists went about their lives while overhead. 4 ancient warships took defensive positions. Admiral Marcus Voss watched his tactical display, counting down the hours until the Krevthar fleet arrived. All stations report ready, Commander Park announced. Ragnarok, Fenrir, Jormungandr, and Armageddon in position. All weapons charged. Shields at maximum. Marcus nodded. Around him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had trained for this 400 years ago. Some things never changed. Sarah Chen stood at an observation station watching the preparations. Earth Command had ordered the evacuation of New Terra, but Marcus had refused. Moving 3 million people would take weeks. The Krevthar would be here in hours. Contact, the sensor officer called out. 3,200 ships dropping out of FTL. Distance 1 million kilometers and closing. The tactical display lit up with red markers. So many ships that they almost obscured the stars behind them. Sarah felt her breath catch. How could 4 ships, no matter how powerful, stand against that? They're hailing us, the communication officer said. Put it through, Marcus ordered. The main screen showed War Matriarch Selvara. Her forearms spread wide in what Sarah recognized as a dominance display. Human vessels, you are outnumbered. Surrender your ships and the colony, and we will allow you to live as subjects of the Dominion. Marcus stood from his command chair, his old uniform bearing the symbols of a war most people had forgotten. War Matriarch, you have one chance to withdraw. You attacked our colonies without provocation. You killed our civilians. Leave now, or learn why humanity built ships like these. Selvara clicked her mandibles in what might have been laughter. 4 ships against 3,000. You are brave but foolish. We will teach the galaxy that humanity's ancient weapons cannot save them. The transmission ended. The Krevthar fleet began moving forward in attack formation. Initiate Horizon Protocol, Marcus commanded. Sarah felt a strange sensation wash over her as reality seemed to ripple. On the tactical display, every Krevthar ship suddenly showed status errors. What did you do? Sarah asked. Quantum disruption field, Commander Park explained. It disables faster-than-light drives and long-range communications. Everything in this system is trapped here until we shut it down. No one can jump away. No one can call for reinforcements. This battle ends one way or another. The Krevthar fleet realized they were trapped. Sarah could see the confusion in their formation as ships tried to activate FTL drives that wouldn't respond. They were committed now. All Titans begin engagement pattern Omega, Marcus ordered. Make every shot count. Titan Station Ragnarok's main guns opened fire. Compressed antimatter rounds crossed the distance at a significant fraction of light speed. Each impact destroyed a Krevthar capital ship completely. Fenrir and Jormungandr added their fire, creating a wall of destruction that nothing could pass through. But there were too many enemies. For every ship the Titans destroyed, 5 more took its place. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between fleets. Armageddon positioned itself directly above New Terra, its point defense systems creating a shield that protected the colony below, shields holding at 70%, someone reported as the first wave of attacks hit Ragnarok. Marcus watched the battle develop. The Krevthar were learning. They sent waves of small attack craft to overwhelm the point defenses, followed by capital ships with heavy weapons. It was smart tactics against any normal fleet, but Titans weren't normal. Fenrir released its autonomous combat drones, thousands of AI-controlled fighters that moved with inhuman precision. The machines engaged the Krevthar attack craft in a ballet of death that no biological pilot could match. Sarah watched in horror and awe as space filled with fire and debris. Ships died by the dozens on both sides. The Titans were taking damage now, their shields flickering under sustained assault. Shields at 40%, Commander Park reported, her voice steady despite the ship shaking around them. Enemy fleet has lost approximately 600 ships, 600 destroyed, but over 2,000 remained. The mathematics were simple and terrible. The Titans were winning each engagement, but there were too many enemies. Eventually, they would be overwhelmed. Sir, Earth's fleet has entered the system, the sensor officer announced. 200 modern warships commanded by Admiral Peterson. They're asking for tactical coordination. Marcus felt hope for the first time since the battle began. Earth's ships were smaller, less powerful than the Titans. But 200 fresh warships would change the equation. Sarah, Marcus said, turning to the young woman who represented modern humanity. Coordinate with Admiral Peterson. You know both our tactics and theirs. Make us work together. Sarah moved to the communication station, her hands shaking. She had never commanded anything in her life, and now she was coordinating 2 fleets in the middle of a massive battle. Admiral Peterson, she transmitted. The Titans are holding the center and protecting the colony. We need your fleet to strike at their flanks. Force them to split their attention. Peterson's voice came back immediately. Understood. Fleet formation Delta, all ships engage. The modern Earth fleet swept in from the side, their missiles and energy weapons tearing into the Krevthar formation. The enemy fleet focused on the Titans suddenly faced attacks from multiple directions. War matriarch Selvara watched her fleet being torn apart. She had expected an easy victory. She had 3,000 ships against 4 ancient relics, but these humans fought with a ferocity she hadn't anticipated. And now reinforcements had arrived. We cannot win this, her tactical officer said quietly. Selvara knew he was right. She had lost over 1,000 ships. The ancient human vessels showed damage, but they were still fighting. And the new human fleet was fresh, undamaged. She had made a terrible mistake. Signal retreat, Selvara ordered. War matriarch, the quantum field prevents FTL jumps. Then signal surrender. The Krevthar fleet began broadcasting surrender signals on all frequencies. Slowly, the weapons fire decreased. Ships on both sides ceased firing, leaving space filled with debris and the bodies of the dead. Marcus watched the tactical display as the enemy fleet powered down weapons. They had won, barely. Ragnarok's shields were at 15%. Fenrir had taken heavy damage to its engine section. But they had held the line. Hail War Matriarch Selvara, Marcus ordered. The screen showed the alien leader, her posture now one of submission rather than dominance. You have shown great strength, Selvara said. We acknowledge defeat. The Krevthar Dominion will withdraw from human space and pay reparations for the colonies we attacked. You will do more than that, Marcus replied. You will tell every species in this sector what happened here. You will tell them that humanity tried to forget the warriors we once were. We built a peaceful civilization. We put away our weapons of war. But when you threatened our people, you reminded us of what we're capable of. Tell them that humanity protects its own. Always. Selvera bowed, all forearms crossed in the Krevthar gesture of absolute submission. It will be known. The transmission ended. Around Marcus, his crew began damage control procedures. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had survived. Sarah sat down, her legs suddenly weak. She had witnessed something that would be remembered for centuries. The old guard and the new generation working together, showing the galaxy what humanity could do when threatened. Days later, after the battle debris was cleared and the diplomatic agreement signed, Marcus stood on the observation deck of Ragnarok, looking out at New Terra below. Sarah found him there. Earth Command is offering full integration, Sarah told him. You and your crews can join the modern military. They want to restore the other Titan stations. They're calling you heroes. Marcus smiled sadly. We're not heroes. We're weapons. Very dangerous, very old weapons. But weapons nonetheless. So what will you do? Marcus considered the question. His crew was divided. Some wanted to stay awake to see this new era of humanity. Others wanted to return to cryosleep, to wait in the darkness until they were needed again. Some of us will train your new generation, Marcus said. Teach them what we know about warfare, about sacrifice, about standing watch in the darkness. Others will sleep again. The Titan line will remain active but hidden. A reminder. A deterrent. A promise. A promise? Sarah asked. Marcus looked at her with eyes that had seen the end of one world and fought to save another. A promise that humanity will never be helpless again. That there are those who remember how to fight when fighting is necessary. That the old guard will always wake when called. Sarah understood. The Titans would return to the deep dark, to their hidden stations, their eternal vigil. But now humanity knew they were there. And so did the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, the story spread across known space. 4 ancient human warships had faced 3,000 enemies and won. The peaceful humans, the traitors and diplomats, had revealed teeth that could tear apart empires. Species that had considered humans weak prey reconsidered. The galaxy learned that humanity had survived a war that would have destroyed most civilizations. They had built weapons so terrible they chose to hide them away. And when necessary, they would use them without hesitation. Titan Station Ragnarok prepared to return to deep space. Its crew, now mixing old warriors with young volunteers, understood their purpose. They would sleep in the darkness waiting, always waiting, ready to wake when humanity called. Admiral Marcus Voss took one last look at New Terra before entering cryosleep again. He had done his duty. He had protected his people. He had reminded the galaxy that humanity's peaceful nature was a choice, not a weakness. And if the galaxy forgot that lesson, the Titans would be there to teach it again,